Marissa Langley wasn't just any CEO, she was the iron-willed, steel-spined head of Langley Innovations, a woman whose schedule was so packed her assistants rotated like seasons. She was known for her precision, her discipline, her unapologetic dominance in boardrooms. But there was one part of her life that made her feel like a complete fraud: motherhood. Her 6-year-old son, Leo. He was bright, sensitive, and deeply introverted ever since her bitter divorce from his father 3 years ago. Therapists had different labels for him: processing emotions, adjusting, highly sensitive child, but none of it mattered to Marissa because nothing they tried ever worked. He barely spoke, avoided eye contact, and clung to routines so rigid that even a misplaced crayon could send him spiraling. She loved him, fiercely, but loving him wasn't enough. She didn't know how to reach him. And guilt gnawed at her daily. That guilt was the real reason she'd had the hidden cameras installed in the executive daycare. She'd justified it as enhanced safety measures, but the truth was simpler. She wanted to see him, to feel less like a stranger in her own son's life. So that morning, after a sleepless night and 3 espressos, she found herself replaying the live feed on her office monitor instead of reviewing the quarterly earnings report. Leo sat alone at a tiny table, tapping a blue crayon against a blank sheet of paper. His shoulders were slumped, his hair rumpled like he'd been tossing in bed all night, and his expression was empty in a way that terrified her. The daycare teacher was speaking to 2 other children and Leo didn't seem to notice her absence, or anyone's presence. The room was bright and filled with cheerful colors, but he looked grayscale. Then the janitor walked in. Evan Brooks, 30-something, quiet, steady, always with a broom or mop in hand. He was the kind of man employees forgot to acknowledge, not because he was unimportant, but because he existed in the background by choice. He was a single dad who picked up every shift he could, mornings, evenings, weekends, just to support his daughter. Marissa only knew that much because HR had mentioned it once during staffing updates. She'd barely paid attention. Evan was sweeping near the play area, humming a soft tune under his breath, not noticing the camera in the corner. But he did notice Leo. That alone caught Marissa's breath. Many adults, even trained teachers, often overlooked her quiet son. Evan stopped sweeping abruptly, leaned on his mop, and crouched down so he wasn't towering over the boy. His voice carried faintly through the hidden mic. "Hey, little man," he murmured, warm but not intrusive. "Rough morning." Leo didn't respond. He didn't even look up. But Evan didn't push. He simply sat on the tiny chair across from him, slowly, gently, like he was entering Leo's world rather than asking Leo to enter his. "I get days like that too," he said. Then, as if remembering something, he reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 metal rings intertwined in a puzzle. "This helped me when my daughter got nervous." He slid it toward Leo but didn't make him touch it. "You wanna try?" Marissa leaned closer to the monitor, hardly breathing. Evan looked relaxed, patient. He wasn't doing the usual adult thing, over-cheering, coaxing, pressuring. He simply existed beside her son. After a long pause, Leo reached out. It was so subtle, so tentative, but it hit Marissa like a gut punch. Her son rarely showed interest in anything spontaneously. Evan watched him fiddle with the puzzle, occasionally offering soft suggestions. "Try twisting the smaller one." "Yeah, just like that." He didn't take it away when Leo struggled. He didn't correct him quickly. He waited. He let Leo lead. And then, click, the rings separated in Leo's hands. His face transformed, turning from stone to sunlight. A smile, wide, joyful, real, spread across his cheeks. Marissa clapped a hand over her mouth. Her son hadn't smiled like that in months. Evan quietly celebrated too, his voice low but full of genuine pride. "You did that all by yourself," he said. "That's pretty awesome." Leo whispered something, barely audible. The mic strained, but Marissa made out 2 words, "Another one." Her eyes filled with tears. Leo was asking, initiating, connecting. Evan chuckled softly and pulled out another puzzle, this time a wooden one. "I've got a whole collection," he said. "My daughter used to make me carry backups." He showed Leo a photo on his phone. A little girl, maybe 8, with curly hair and a huge gap-toothed grin, holding one of the puzzles like a trophy. She started out shy too, Evan said. But she taught me something important. Quiet kids don't need to be fixed. They just need someone who listens. Marissa sat back, stunned. Therapists had never phrased it that way. Teachers, specialists, consultants, none of them had said anything like that. And yet a janitor, someone she barely acknowledged, understood her son more deeply than all the experts combined. Day after day, she kept watching. At first, she felt guilty about the cameras. But the more she saw, the more she realized she needed this window into her son's world, because it was the only way she could understand what she had been missing. Every morning, Evan did something small that changed everything. He taught Leo how to fold a paper crane, guiding his tiny hands gently. He showed him how to fix a broken toy with nothing more than a paperclip and patience. He listened when Leo whispered, offered choices instead of commands, and laughed with him, not at him. And Leo blossomed. He began arriving early to daycare, waiting for Evan to appear. He talked. Small words, but words. He laughed. He followed Evan around with tiny questions like, why does the broom squeak? And, does your daughter like dinosaurs? Marissa felt a mixture of amazement and shame. How had she, a woman who controlled empires, failed to notice the one thing her son truly needed? Part 2. Friday morning shattered her heart before the sun was even fully up. She was reviewing investor notes when an alert pinged on her phone, behavioral distress detected in daycare. Her stomach plummeted. She pulled up the live feed immediately. Leo was in the center of the room, screaming, loud, desperate, anguish-filled screams. Blocks scattered everywhere. A tower of Legos toppled. He was hitting his own forehead with his small fists, tears falling, face flushed. The teachers hovered but didn't know what to do. One approached, but Leo shrank back violently. Marissa's hands shook. She didn't realize she was whispering, please, baby, please. No one could reach him. No one except. Evan rushed in, eyes sharp with concern. He knelt instantly, lowering himself to Leo's height. Hey buddy, he said softly. No panic, no frustration, just calm. Leo spun around, gasping for air like he'd been drowning, then ran into Evan's arms. Evan held him, steady and firm but gentle, guiding him through breaths. In and out. I'm right here, Evan murmured. Big feelings don't scare me. Slowly, Leo copied him, each breath deeper than the last. Minutes passed, and the storm inside her son quieted. He clung to Evan's shirt, hiccuping, whispering, I didn't mean to be bad. Marissa covered her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. Evan shook his head firmly. You're not bad, he said, voice thick with emotion. You're trying. Sometimes feelings spill over. That's okay. When Leo calmed, Evan brought him to a quiet corner and simply sat beside him, humming the same soft tune he always hummed while sweeping. The daycare staff watched in awe. They'd never seen anyone reach Leo that deeply, that fast. And neither had Marissa. She knew then. She needed to understand this man. Not as a janitor, not as an employee, but as the person her son trusted most in the world. She called him to her office that afternoon. Evan walked in nervously, wiping his palms on his uniform. Did I do something wrong? He asked. Marissa shook her head. Quite the opposite. She turned the monitor toward him. A paused image showed Leo hugging him with absolute trust. Evan's ears reddened. He's a good kid, he murmured. He just needs someone who won't rush him. And why are you that person? Marissa asked, not accusing, genuinely curious. Evan hesitated, then took a breath. My daughter, he said quietly. Lily. She passed away 2 years ago. Leukemia. Marissa froze. I'm so. Don't apologize, he said softly. Her last few months, she got quiet. Withdrawn. Scared. I was working so much, taking every shift to pay the bills, I wasn't there the way I should have been. I'll never forgive myself fully. He swallowed hard. So now, I try to be the person I should have been for her. I promised myself, if I see a child struggling, I'll show up. I'll listen. I'll be patient, because I know what happens when no one does. Marissa felt tears burning behind her eyes. His kindness wasn't random. It was born from devastation. Grief had carved something profound inside him, something that allowed him to reach children like Leo in ways no professional ever had. She stepped closer to him. "Evan," she said softly, "would you consider becoming part of Leo's care team? Officially. Not as a janitor. As someone dedicated to him." He blinked, stunned. "But I'm not qualified." "Not officially." "You gave my son his smile back," Marissa whispered. "There isn't a degree in the world more valuable than that." Evan looked away, overwhelmed. "I just did what felt right." "That," Marissa said, "is exactly why I'm asking." She offered a gentle smile, something she rarely allowed herself. "Let me make it official. Better pay, better hours, a role built around what you're already doing naturally." Evan swallowed. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything," she replied. At that moment, she realized something she never expected. This quiet man, overlooked, underestimated, unnoticed, had become the anchor her son desperately needed. And maybe, as she watched him smile for the first time since he entered her office, an anchor she needed too.